Do you commonly feel awkward or nervous about selling and just wish that you never had to have a sales call ever again? Well, if that's you, then today's episode is going to be one that you'll probably want to listen to multiple times. It is full of the most simple yet practical and really realistic sales tips that you can use starting today in your business to feel far more at ease, show the real confidence in your product and in what it is that you're offering, and help you have a much better time, more successful time at selling. So stay tuned, it's coming right up.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women, for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
Now, joining me today on the podcast to share with you about these really simple practical sales strategies is Andee Hart, who is a sales strategist herself. She's a very energetic entrepreneur, mentor, and she hosts a podcast called She Sells Differently. Andee was working as a sales executive for a Fortune 500 company that she said she had 17 years experience in that before she started her passion project, Heart Design Co., which is a candle making business that she began in her bedroom. What started as a side hustle blossomed into a wildly successful wholesale business within a year. And then she was able to transition from that corporate career to full-time entrepreneurship, which is just incredible. And she now coaches other entrepreneurs on sales and selling because she has so much experience and expertise to share both in services and in products. So Andee and I have a wonderful chat. She shares some really great stories, some tips, just some you would think almost obvious things that are just not obvious, that most people are not doing, that is harming your sales results, the experience, making you feel awkward and nervous around selling. So by the end of this episode, you should be feeling far more confident in your ability to sell naturally, authentically, with integrity, really feel good about selling. And I do encourage you to listen all the way to the end because she has some really cool tools that you can use and implement to help you as well. So it's not just about selling verbally or in front of people. These tips are going to help you in your sales copy and also some tools that you can use for your website. So much value in this. Andee is an incredible guest, really fun person. I know you're going to love it as much as I did. So let's press play on this interview. So I'm here with Andee Hart. Andee, welcome to She's the Business podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Jessica. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And just so that everyone can get to know you a little bit, would you share with us a bit about what you do and who you serve in your business?
Yes. So I am a sales strategist. I often joke that if you had told me even back in college and university that I would be in sales, much less coaching sales, that I would have laughed. But here I am. I love it. I could talk about it all day long. And so I got a job in technology sales when I was a senior in college, and I ended up working my way up the corporate ladder. And I was in technology sales for over 17 years. And during the pandemic, I started a candle company, as a lot of people probably did. They wanted some type of side hustle to keep them busy while they were quarantining at home. And so I kind of joke that it was my after work therapy. But I started a candle company, Heart Design Co., and started wholesaling my products, had a goal to be in 4 retailers by the end of 2022. And Jessica, within 3 months, I was in 120.
Wow.
So I think I say that to people and they're like, that's amazing. And it was, but it was also completely overwhelming. And so that just set a course to where I am now, having left my corporate job a year and a half ago. And I have my candle company, and I also coach product businesses on how to sell, how to get their products on retailer shelves, how to sell their products from a place of integrity, how to overcome that anxiety of selling. And I love what I do. It's kind of taken my passion of, creating beautiful products and then what I learned in corporate and combining them.
Yeah, that's amazing. What did you do in corporate? Was it product sales or service-based sales? What sort of selling were you doing?
Yeah, actually both. So working for a technology company, I worked for two of the big OEM manufacturers. So I sold actually, technology equipment, but then I also sold the services and the concepts, the solutions around the actual hardware as well. So I got such a great experience of selling products and selling services and solutions, and such a good foundation of not only selling, but leadership skills as well. And so I'm so thankful for that time in corporate America, but I think deep down I always knew I want to work for my own dream.
Thing. Yeah, yeah, I think you do. You have that.
Probably a lot of your listeners are thinking, oh, I have that feeling too. I think, and so it was just that tug never went away.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, how did you end up in sales? Like, what was your background before that? What did you mentioned that if you'd asked you as a really your younger self, you would never have imagined that you'd end up there. What do you describe yourself as before you got into that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of another funny, I think, the Lord just has a funny way of like, you have all these plans and your Lord just is like, nope, that's not what's going to happen. I'm just going to give you all these other plans, So
Yeah.
I grew up dancing. I did 15 years of competitive dance growing up, and then I taught dance in college. So I had a plan to start a dance studio. So I think this is where my creative nature has always come out. And so I was ready. I had a business plan. I was ready to go to the bank and like move forward with this. And so my senior year of college, I was a part of American Marketing Association, and I had a professor. We were on a trip to Nashville, Tennessee, as a part of that organization. And we toured Dell Technologies, which probably a lot of people are familiar with because it's a global organization.
Yeah.
They were hiring at the time, and my professor made me interview. So they were like, hey, here's a bunch of university students touring our campus. We're hiring. We don't even care that you guys don't have resumes. Like, come interview.
Yeah.
So my professor made me interview, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in technology sales. And she looked at me and she said, Andee, you're going to interview and you're going to thank me later. And what's funny, Jessica, is I mentioned this before we started recording, but I just moved back to Arkansas, moved back to the town, the university town that I went to school in. And I had that same professor over for dessert, like right when I first moved back. And we were laughing about that. And I was like, thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
It's like a full circle moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't until literally a month before I started that job that I interviewed, got that offer, and just prayed about it. And I was like, I think this would be a really good experience for a year or two. Then I'll go start my dance studio. And, it ended up being, 17 years in corporate America. And now, here I am as a sales coach. So yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. And what a sliding doors moment, right? Because
Right.
you could so easily not interviewed and not done that. And who knows where the path may have led from there. I was just curious because, when we think about sales and selling, and I'm sure, everybody listening would agree unless you are in sales, but for most of us, it feels like this thing that it's so different to who we are. And it does feel hard, I will say the word hard and strange. And and like you have to kind of become someone that's not yourself.
Mhm.
What do you sort of say to that? Because, as somebody who you had a very kind of creative and different life, and then to come into something where you were, okay, now you're going to sell. How did you adapt and adopt into that selling role and make it obviously very successful for yourself?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there's a lot of answers to that question, but I will start with one of the biggest mindset shifts that I believe you have to um, be a good seller. And I will say this, anyone can be good at sales. This is not
Mhm.
something that I feel like comes naturally for anyone. It certainly did not for me. I had to learn it and I had to be persistent with it.
Mhm.
I certainly had my times where I completely flopped and embarrassed myself, but I just picked myself back up and moved forward and learned from it. But what I will say is that um, when you have first and foremost, you have to have a product or a service or a product offering that you believe in to be able to
Mhm.
sell from a place of integrity. Because if you don't believe in it, that's where you cannot sell well or believe in what you sell, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where we're out of alignment
Mm.
with what we're selling. But second, when you have a product offering and you know that it brings value to someone, and I tell my clients this all the time, whatever that is, it could be a beautiful candle that you create, it could be a coaching service, it could be a course, fill in the blank, but you know that has a transformation value or it brings joy to someone,
Mhm.
but it brings value, then what I say is you owe it. You actually owe it to the world to talk about it. Now, the difference there is that you find some people that continue and continue and continue, and they don't take those emotional and social cues that when not everyone is your customer, right? And there are going to be some people that are not interested.
Mhm.
And what society often tells us are these common sales trainings that you hear, and I've
Mhm.
sat through them, is that you have to overcome every objection, right? I don't truly believe that because I don't believe everyone is your customer and not everyone is your customer right now. And
Mm.
so sometimes the most gracious thing you can do is to let a customer walk away and let them realize when it is their time to be your customer. But that being said, you owe it to share about your product. And
Yeah.
when you get good at sharing about your product and sharing about the transformation and the value that it brings, people will naturally see the passion and the joy and the transformation that
Yeah.
it has, right?
Yeah. That is two excellent points. That just to reiterate, believing in the product, believing in it actually fully, wholeheartedly, like you love it so much that this person would be nuts or insane not to love it as much as you. Like it's
Yeah.
that kind of energy that actually I think is subconsciously working when you're in that discussion or when whether it's face to face or maybe it's even the copy that you put on your sales page or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, but when it's coming with that sort of energy, that's totally different from, oh, well, here's something I've got and like, here are all the things in it. And I really hope that you like it. And I hope that it's enough. And I hope that it's the right
Yeah,
price. That's a totally different energetic signature that you have on it versus like, this is the business. Like, this is the thing that
yeah,
is going to be transformational for you. And when you have that level of belief, it just comes across totally differently, doesn't it? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think about how many times I have experienced this at
mm,
different levels, whether it's someone like I'm encountering online or even shopping in person, and they're not confident about what they're offering, but maybe even I see the value in what they're offering and I actually want to buy from them, but
yeah.
they don't actually make the offer to me to allow
Mm,
me to purchase. I'll give you like a prime example, and this is just a
mhm,
small everyday example any of us could come across. My sister-in-law and I went to a landscape company. We wanted to buy some house plants,
mhm.
and they did such a great job educating us on all of these beautiful house plants. Okay, well, you have east-facing windows. You should get these are beautiful house
Yeah.
plants, providing such high value content to us in person, right? But had we never been offered a checkout counter or like led to the checkout counter, like we would have missed out. We were ready to purchase, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that is so often what we encounter when we're selling our products online
Mm.
or our services. We provide such high value and we get people so excited, but we're so afraid of being salesy and being that person that we never actually make the offer. And people are like, wait a minute, like I want what you have to offer. And then we actually do a disservice to people because we
Yeah.
left them hanging, you know? And so I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, don't be that person either. They can walk away, they can unsubscribe if,
Mm. Yeah. Like
but make
showing
the
you where to
offer.
buy isn't like being pushy. It's just saying, here's where you buy. Like you're not able to make someone do anything. And I think that that's maybe, do you agree that some people at times, where we've maybe grown up in an environment or we've been exposed to certain sales environments as a customer where you have felt pressured. And I think usually this
Mhm,
happens when, the old cliche of used car sales.
mhm.
Some department stores definitely, like I can think of, you go into a white goods type store and they're like on you and they're like trying to show you that, whatever it is. And you're like, I just need to look around and I'm not really
Yeah,
keen to buy yet. You get exposed to that and then you think, well, that's what selling is. And that there's this push. But showing somebody, like you said, just showing them, hey, here's where you buy, or here's where you check out, or here's the next step, just making it obvious, not hiding it. Gosh, I've
yeah,
seen some as well where I've had a client whose sales page, like the link to buy was a link hidden in body copy. And I'm like, okay, the link is there, but you are making them work really hard to find it. And they could miss that really
yeah,
easily. We need to, it's okay to have a big button or to, and actually not just okay. It's like, you must have a big button. You need to tell
yeah,
people because if they're quick and they're out of time, why slow them down, make them go searching for like, okay, I want this, like you're saying, but where do I go and how do I sign up? Where do I get it?
yeah.
You're losing sales by doing that for
Well,
sure.
and no matter what you're selling, make doing business easy. Make doing business with you
Yeah.
easy. Don't make it more difficult. And to your point, the experience that so often we have had in the past, whether it's with pushy salespeople,
Mm-hmm.
it's there's two things that usually happens in those scenarios, and this is why we have come to have this icky feeling with sales. And I always describe it as, one, we have had that pushy salesperson,
Mm.
and I want you to think back to the last time that you have felt pressured to
Mm-hmm.
buy something, and maybe even you ended up buying it and you had post purchase regret, or you just felt icky about it afterwards, whether you had regret or not. But probably you felt pressured. And the reason you felt pressured is because that salesperson did not stop to ask questions and listen to what mattered to you. And so that's the first thing. The
Mm.
second thing is, and this is probably the biggest, is that so often what we're sold, the expectations don't meet the reality.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And that is the hardest thing, because whether, we joke with the car, right? The used car, and we're sold, hey, it's this great condition car, and we get 30 miles to the gallon. It just had a new oil change, blah, blah, blah. And then we get it and it gets 15 miles to the gallon and the engine goes out and it's a lemon. So
Mm.
the expectations of what we were sold in a high pressure scenario and the reality are so disconnected. And
Mm.
when that happens, that is like the number one like scenario for incredible frustration and customer satisfaction issues.
Mm.
And so if you can, as a salesperson, because we're selling every day, but if you can pause and really take the time to ask, your potential customer what really matters to them and get to the heart of what they're trying to accomplish or
Mm,
what they're trying to solve, and make
mm,
sure that they feel heard and ensure that your product is going to meet their expectations. And guess what? If it's not, then you walk away. You walk
yeah.
away as a salesperson. That is the hardest thing to do. But
Yeah.
a good salesperson is always so confident in their product that they're not afraid to walk away if they can't solve the customer's problem.
Yeah. And I think this is actually really important. There's so many layers to what you just said. A few
Mm-hmm.
things. One was you're always selling. And I think that that
Mm-hmm.
is something, listen in, whether you think you're selling or not, you are always selling. If you have a business, you are selling. And so you're either doing a great job of it or you're not doing a good job of it.
Yep.
And let's get into a place where you are doing a great job. And if you have a business like we both do, where you're selling your own expertise, I actually would have to say that's one of the hardest types of selling to do because as great as a product that you've made, obviously there's a lot of heart that goes into your product, and I didn't mean the pun there with your name, Andee.
Exactly all the time. Go for it.
You've put a lot of heart and soul into a product that you've created, but when you're actually selling your own expertise, I think it goes to like next level anxiety and all of the stuff that comes up, because when you're selling, you're technically selling you, right? And so
Yes.
I think that that's where we get our knickers in a twist, so
Yes.
much when we're in this situation, and really pull back from it and probably feel even more nervous about it because it does feel so very personal. But you
Mhm.
mentioned just before something that I think would be interesting to dive a little bit deeper into, because you said people talk about, getting rid of everyone's objections. And I've had this discussion with quite a few clients over time, because they're like, oh, but, they're saying no, that means no. And I'm like, yes, but there is a distinction to make here that I think is really important. And that's where, first of all, it's understanding whether this person is your ideal client or not. And knowing that means that you've gone far, far, far deeper below the surface
Mhm.
level. Okay. It's not like, well, they're a woman at the right age and they've got blah, blah, it's like, no, no, no. Like right down into, the problem that they're in, how they're seeing it, what's really the right solution for them. Is there an absolute fit? And listening for the difference between, this is a no for me because it's not a right fit, to this is the right fit for me, but I'm really nervous about saying yes. And so
Yes.
that distinction there, and like the objections of like, it's a yes, but there's a part of me saying no, and it's just a fear of saying yes. Those are the objections that you really want to be addressing, is
Yes.
kind of what I always say. So tell me a little bit more about that. Do you have any tips for people on how to make the distinction between those types of objections, and the ways that you then can address them? Because often they come down to money, time, and people saying, oh, I'm not ready. Readiness is probably the three categories, and I think money is probably the hardest one for people to
Mhm.
address, because they feel like, I'm telling someone to buy something, they're saying they don't have the money, and like there's a whole raft of things that come up there. So I'll
Yes.
open that up to you. Like, yeah, what do you think is the
Well,
way?
I'll say this. Usually, I have found that money is a cover for a deeper objection.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
the objection you
that's the
hear.
easy one.
It's the objection you hear most often. I actually just
Yeah.
did a launch for my course, and anytime I do a launch, I do a post launch survey for the people that didn't buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I get so much good data from that. And one of the questions I ask is, some form of why didn't you buy?
Yeah.
I wrap it up nicer than that, right? But and generally about 60% of the responses are something to do with money.
Mm.
But in my experience, that is always a root of a deeper objection.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this: when you are selling one to many, meaning you're doing an online launch or a webinar or a workshop or a launch via email versus selling one to one, that is much harder to overcome objections than that is one-on-one. When you're one-on-one, you can ask questions. You can really get to the root of like for that one person.
Yeah.
And much quicker and much more personal. But when you're doing that one to many or, with a launch, then you really have to your point, know your audience. And you have to think of every objection that they could come up with and create either, email copy or marketing content or some type of sales objection busting copy content to get them to turn that around, right? And sometimes you don't get the chance in that scenario to overcome it because you have a big audience and you won't hear that.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, and for probably a lot of your listeners, when you have an opportunity to collect data from your customers of why they're not purchasing, that data is gold.
Yeah.
Especially when it's, anonymous. That data is really gold because every time you launch a product, a service, a course, whatever that is, then you can refine your sales approach. And this is another piece of learning to be a better salesperson each time. You are constantly learning to just tweak your approach just a little bit. And so the next time where, you may have closed 10 clients, the next time you may close 12 because you learned how to overcome that objection because you got such valuable feedback. So to kind of full circle to answer your question, learning how to differentiate and understand that feedback can come in a lot of different ways depending on how you're selling, whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many, or what that looks like. But always ask for feedback. And most times people are so willing to give it to you.
Yeah.
They're willing to help you out. Yeah.
So. Absolutely. And I think that that's actually the really good point that you mentioned just a second ago was, it is harder with the one-to-many, but when you're doing those one-to-one calls, that is where you can take those insights and then say, well, if this person is feeling that, then likely other people are as well. So create that content around what the person is saying on the one-to-one call. And what you also mentioned, which I think it's just worth, I like to kind of highlight the key points because let's not lose them. Ask the question. I think that what happens, and I'm looking back to past me when I first started out in this business, I came from a marketing background. I was used to writing all the copy. I wasn't used to sitting in front of someone having a conversation about buying. And so they would say to me, oh, I can't afford it. That's too much. And I'd go, okay, cool. See you later. And I just get out of there quickly because I'm feeling super awkward and uncomfortable already. And I just wanted the conversation to end. So I just took it as a surface no. They said no, that's no. And what I have learned over time is, okay, just pause. Sit in that place. I know it doesn't feel good. I know it feels uncomfortable, but it's not about you. This is about them. And if you are 99% sure, maybe there's a little bit of doubt, but if you think, I think this person is right, it's felt really good up till now, and then now they've just sort of thrown this freak out, no, or I can't afford it, or I don't have the money, whatever it is, at that point where you've mentioned the price, just allow them, sit with it with them for a moment and ask the questions, right? That's when you ask questions okay, great. So it's too much. What does that mean? And what else? Allow them to just sit with it and ask the questions, because I think once you start asking questions there, you're now coming from a place of serving. It's not coercing, because you're not making them. You can't get them literally get their credit card out and punch in the numbers, right, or hold their hand. They will still decide, but you can allow that that initial response to have a little bit of space to actually dig a bit deeper. And as you said, it's usually the quick response that someone will say, but it's not usually the real reason. There's something beyond it, and they're just saying that quick response. So the only way you're going to find it is asking questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions that you would ask? What are your favorite go-to? How would you approach that situation?
Well, so let me say this. I think that this is interesting because so many times when I will get that feedback and I'll, start asking some of those questions. One of the things that I think is important, and I struggle with this, is I want to often talk about like features and like, oh, you get this and this, and no, I mean, like that's like sales 101, like, but talking about like painting the picture of where they can be a year from now. And one of the things I've realized in my time of being an entrepreneur is that good entrepreneurs, they're good at investing. And so I think a lot of times you have to really paint the picture of investment and return on investment, especially when it's a pricing conversation. And
Absolutely.
so this is how I always get to the root of, is this really about price or is this something else? And so I will usually always have a return on investment, kind of objection buster, whatever, talking point, I should say. And as I am kind of painting that picture of what their business can look like, if they are still not on board, then I know it's not price.
Yeah.
I know it's not price. And so I think that's when you know that either they're just not serious about it. When you're asking the questions and they're not really getting to the root, they're not serious or they're not ready. Maybe they're not ready. They're not in the right mindset. But I think when you do a really good job of painting the transformation up front and the investment, then and the return that they get, and then it's still a price, then they may not have, they may not just not be ready for what you have to offer,
You're so right. Usually the investment is so much less than the cost of not investing, the cost of staying where you are. It's like, well, what is it costing you every month that you're not doing this? And how much longer can you really continue? When you start to compare those costs or potentially, maybe they're thinking I should go and invest in something else. It's like, well, let's compare the two. It comes down to being a no-brainer. So you're so right. Like they're saying no. I would be like straight away, this person doesn't believe that they can do it. It's not that they don't think they should spend the money. The reason why they don't think they should spend the money is because they're usually thinking, I don't know whether I can actually do this. And that would be the little quiet, I guess where I would be exploring first of all. And, like you say, they may not be ready. They might just not be at that point where they're like, okay, I've tried everything. I've done it on my own. I'm at that point where I know if I just keep going inside my own echo chamber, approaching things the same way I've been doing, trying new stuff, but you're still inside that same context and that same view and taking those actions that are automatic to you, you're just going to keep getting the same results. So there comes a point in time where someone is ready because they're like, right, I've tried that and I know that it's not working. But sometimes people need to try it themselves for however long, and everyone's different. Some people will try for themselves for years and think that they can DIY or snap little pieces together from here and there and figure it out. And there are some people very stubbornly wanting to do that, and I'm like, well, that's okay. And everyone's different.
And I am such a student of Russell Brunson. I really love learning from him. I mean, I think he's a marketing genius, but one of the things that he does, he really does not talk about features and, all these things of what you get. It's his selling for him is all about the mindset.
Yeah.
And that is something that I was never really taught in corporate America. Like I am
very features and benefits.
Yeah. And so we used to call it in the tech world, like speeds and feeds, right? Which is so like such a snooze fest for me. And so, but one of the things that you just hit the nail on the head, because one of the things he talks about the 3 shifts that you have to get a customer to believe. And the first one is what you're currently doing is not working. The second one is that you can do it. And how many times, especially us women entrepreneurs, and I hate to, paint us women across the board, but I think we struggle with it more, is imposter syndrome, but you can do it. And then the third shift that he really talks about is here's the vehicle of how you do it. My solution works. And so obviously there's a lot more strategy into it, but those are the three big shifts that every
Mm.
presentation you watch him give, he walks someone through those shifts, whether you realize he's doing it or not. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so important. Like, how many women would sit there and say, well, I can see other people are doing it and that's fine for them because of blah, 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 but it's not possible for me. And it's like, we have such a lack of self-belief. I know I'm generalizing as, speaking
Right.
all women, but it's so curious because I think that it's so much more widespread than what we realize, because we all think it's just us that don't believe in ourselves. And I know I've told people that myself, and they look at me and go, you can't be serious. Like, of course, you're so confident.
Yeah.
And, of course you believe in yourself. And I'm like, no, I have the same doubts that you do. Like, I work on them, and I think everyone, it's so curious because we don't talk about it, right? There's just all this internal dialogue that's going on. And no one realizes everyone else is going through the same stuff. Everyone's just looking out there going, oh, but, that's fine for all of them. Look at them that, they've got all of this experience. People would say to me, well, you've got 20 years of marketing experience. Of course it's easy for you. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's always different. And it's different when it's your own business versus your company and, brands you're creating, because it's not personal then. Like, this is personal. I go through the same things you do. Yes, I have benefits of having done a lot of this stuff before, and of course there are benefits there, but it doesn't mean that the mindset piece is any easier. We have much self-doubt. So do you have any tips for someone who goes, I understand all of this and these are really great points, but every time I get into a sales situation I just feel anxious? How do you overcome the anxiety?
This is my number one tip is, I always say this, is it just takes 10 seconds of courage.
Mm-hmm.
10 seconds of courage. And I say it because it's like, going to, anyone can be a good salesperson, but it's like going to a gym, and that, you have to work those muscles out and exercise them to get good at what you're doing. And so the more repetitions that you can get in, the better you're going to be. Right. And so always just tell someone, whether it's you're pitching something, you're going into a store to pitch your products to a retailer, or you're, going to send an email, whatever that is, 10 seconds of courage. You can do anything for 10 seconds. And so I think just having that mindset of, I heard someone say recently, in the morning when you don't want to get out of bed, but you just need to do it. You just say just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it. And I did that to myself this morning and I was like, well, that really worked. And so I think, it sounds so simple, but okay, I can do anything for 10 seconds. I can talk about my product for 10 seconds.
Yeah. And you mentioned something just before. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to be an expert at it straight away. You worked at it there's the time, there's the reps. And so I think there's this also maybe this feeling of I went on a sales call and it was terrible, so I'm no good at sales. And we're very absolute in our, identity of I'm good at this or I'm not good. And it's just allow yourself to be a beginner, allow yourself to be a learner, and be okay with that. Because the more you're going into that call being a nervous Nelly and thinking, I've got to make this perfect and it's all on me, and all of this stuff, and thinking, well, actually the other person's probably going to be more nervous. They're the person who's needing help, wanting help. They're on the call thinking, am I going to buy from this person or not? And I think for me, when I remember back, because I was the worst when I started out in this business, you will laugh because, and I've told this story before, anyone who's listening knows that I think definitely happened multiple times. My first sales calls, I didn't even say the price on the call. I was so nervous. I would get to the point, they were interested, and I'd go, I'll email it to you. So I would email them what the offer was, and I'd get off the call as fast as I could. I never even got the chance to have the discussion about what they thought or not. I was atrocious, terrible, terrible, terrible. And one of the things I think that helped me was that changing the thought that that other person's probably more nervous than you. So get on
Yeah.
there and be there for them. That helped me to shift into being in a different place. But I think as well, it's like thinking it's okay to be newer at selling and to then still have that belief and confidence in your product. Like, it doesn't have to go perfectly. You will. I mean, I made sales, ironically, with telling no one the price on the call. Some of them did actually convert, so I must have done okay. Like, it was far from perfect, but they did sign up. So it is possible. You don't have to be
Yeah.
perfect. You can just be you. And if I can share one story, because I think it came up and I'm like, I haven't even thought about that for so long. But back in my early years, I had a job. Weirdly, I got hired as a PA. They knew that I was going to be a terrible PA, but they moved me into the marketing team. Anyway, so I was in marketing, which is where I wanted to be. And then they said, oh, can you do some sales tours? So I worked for this hotel company, and the salesperson would take corporate clients on tours to kind of get them to sign up on a deal. And I'm like, sure, I can do a tour, thinking I've got no idea what I'm doing. But I'll walk down and I'd show them around. And I think I was just really honest because I had zero training. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. And they were started signing up. So these corporate clients I was taking on tours were signing up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I was telling them like my honest opinion about the rooms and what that, how it was going to work and everything. And I wasn't doing any sort of sales tactics. I was literally just telling them from my heart the honest truth. And then I look back and go, well, that probably was what was working. And because I wasn't so worried about it, I wasn't in my head about doing all of these different tactics, it was okay that I was new and a beginner. Someone's they're not judging you. They're just like, is this what we want or not?
Yeah.
Do I want to have this engagement? So if you're not selling sales, if you're selling something else in your business, no one's really judging you as a salesperson when you're having that sales call. They're listening for like, does this
Yes.
person know what I need them to know? Are they going to be the right guide? Do they have the right solution for me? And so that's far more important to them
Yes.
than how the call's going.
100%. And people love just to have a real conversation. I can't tell you how many sales calls I've been on where we ended up not talking about anything business.
Hmm.
We just, shot the breeze, right? But it
Yeah.
ended up being such a good relationship builder
Mhm.
that we had such a solid business relationship from that because I sought to get to know them and just be real. And so sometimes that can be worth so much more than like
Mm.
just hurrying up and getting down to business, just to be real and authentic. And I think you just articulated that so well.
Yeah. It's so, I think once you kind of remove that, I know it's easier said than done, but remove the
Yes.
anxiety of it and actually just sort of be excited. Think, there's
Yeah.
someone they want to talk to me. This is cool. And, they may buy, they may not buy. I'm going to detach from that outcome because you've
Mhm.
got no control over it. You literally don't have any control over their decision. All you can do is go, all I can be there is share the information that they need, listen to them. Like you said, I think one of those huge shifts is actually asking questions and listening more than
Mhm.
talking. That was also one of my big mistakes when I used to just blah,
Oh,
blah, blah,
me
blah,
too.
blah, non-stop talking, and the poor person would get their ear chewed off. So stop talking. That's my tip. And I'd love to hear if you've got any other common, what are people commonly doing that's sort of like just these few tips, if you think about them, it'll help you to be less anxious and it'll actually help you have a better experience.
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on in my career is trying to mimic someone else that I saw was being successful.
Mm,
And there's some good and some bad to that. There's always some good takeaways, but I don't have to be like that person. God did
mm,
not give me the same personality as that person. And I need to be who God made me to be and be my authentic self and show up who Andee is and not try to be that next person. Because
yeah.
if I'm trying to be exactly who they are in a sales meeting, then I'm not showing up real, and customers see straight through that. And so I would just say, relax, like I said, 10 seconds of courage, and just show up, just authentically you. And as you said, just take a deep breath and just show up ready with a mindset to serve and to provide value and to listen. And you will learn. If you seek to understand first, you will start to learn and hear things over time that you will become an amazing salesperson in your own right. You don't have to be the most outgoing person to be a great salesperson, so just be authentically you.
Yeah. And I think, you said give value. And this is another, I think, little trap that I definitely got stuck in for a while at the beginning. When I was giving value, I was literally solving their problems on the sales call. Like before they've signed up, I was giving so much advice and all of that. And then they probably went away thinking, I've got everything I need. Great. So,
Yeah.
Value actually doesn't mean that you have to solve the solutions on the call. Like
Right.
you are giving value, right? When you are listening to them and you're kind of showing them that, hey, here's a solution and here's why it will work for you, and making that feel possible, that is value. Because before they get on the call, they don't have the solution. They don't know how to get there, because if they did know, they would have done it themselves already, right? So I think sometimes people, and curious to hear what else you think around that, but so often I think you know your stuff so well that you're not even realizing that it's valuable for somebody to even become aware that this is the right solution. Like that is of value to them. And for you, you're like, well, you're already like 10 miles past that. So bring yourself back to where they are, in the place where they haven't solved the problem yet. It's frustrating, and they've probably tried lots of things and they're thinking, I don't know, is this going to be the right thing? Like actually knowing that this is going to be the right thing for them, as long as it is the right fit, that is of incredible value. So, that is the value that you're giving on the call, is helping someone to see that. Yeah.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. And the thing that it's taken me probably a year and a half to learn as an entrepreneur that is different than selling in a boardroom, one-to-one or face-to-face with a CEO, is that when I am selling online and selling a course or, whatever it is that I'm selling, that there's a fine line, I think, between overselling or over-delivering value and really delivering, value, or not delivering value at all, I should say. And I have seen some workshops that I have been on, and they will say, I'm thinking of one content creator in particular, and she's like, no, you never give any tips. Like you never give any tips because you're giving away your content. And I struggle with that, because I'm like, every time I'm on a workshop, I get on a workshop with you, I'm like, you really don't give any tips. But what she does really well is she convinces you that you are wildly capable of achieving your goals and achieving what she's going to teach you if you buy her course.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so that is the difference in that. I think that there is a happy medium there. I think that you can give some value, right?
Absolutely.
But I think that part of that immense value, especially, when, once again, be careful of saying us as women, but if your target audience, whether it's men or women, but is to convince us as just human beings that we are capable, because we innately, just often don't believe in ourselves, and so, that is of huge value. There is just to say, I've been where you are. I struggled to believe it was possible. And here I am. And guess what? You can do it too. And I have the framework. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so interesting, because yes, you do get the two camps, like the people who say, give all the value. And I'm like, yes, but, you there's a certain type of value that you want to give that does allow them to move into a different place, but you're not actually giving them the whole meal, because otherwise they have no reason to buy from you. And I think there is a really subtle, well, maybe it's not even that subtle. There is a definite difference between that. And I used to do, obviously, the overgiving and oversharing. It's hard because I'm like, I get so excited and I want to teach people things and share everything I know. And it's funny because people will go, oh, that's all I need to know. And I'm like, oh my God, but there's so much more that I haven't shared with you. But because I have that depth, and maybe they're like, well, that's enough for me right now. It's really finding where is that line for you, and actually making them aware of how much more there is that they don't have. And I think that's one of the things that, you can kind of think, how can I share something that's of value so they're experiencing it and they're getting that value, but that they're also aware, and now they're hungry for all the stuff you haven't shared. And I think the mistake I might have made previously was not actually giving them any of those signals of what else there still is. Like they probably thought they had the whole meal. They didn't realize it was just the entree.
I've been guilty of both. Like I have done both of like over delivering and, not telling them you have so much more to learn. And then I have been guilty of not delivering enough value because I did the opposite and I over delivered the last time, and so I had to learn from both of those mistakes. And they're both painful mistakes to learn from. But that's part of the selling journey, is that, back to our comment earlier, is that you're going to make those mistakes. And Jessica, if I had a blooper reel of all the silly mistakes I have made in my sales journey, I mean, we would be here all night. So I say all that to say is that you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Learn from them,
Yeah. So. That's so true. And it's okay. Like, I think just go tell yourself that. Go, you know what? I'm going to stuff it up. I'm going to make a mistake. And the world is not going to end. My business isn't going to fail because of it. It's just, you're going to carry on and you're going to learn from it, and you probably won't make that mistake again. And like you said, it's about the reps. Like the more often you do it, the easier it's going to get, and the more natural it'll feel, because you're like, okay, I'm here in the seat that I've been in before, and I know, what I want to do. I know what I'm not going to do. And you're just so much more used to it, right? 100%. What do you like? Is there anything that you can do that you think a lot of people, it's like, actually, what I wanted to say was, we've talked about a lot of tips. Do you have sort of like a top list or 5 or anything that you like? I know that you've got to experience some of these things, and you can definitely go back and re-listen to this episode, because there's so much that you've shared in here of like, things that you can remember or think about doing and adopt. Anything that you feel like we've missed out that's like a really obvious maybe mistake people are making, or something that you can do that can make a big difference for you?
I would say probably, well, I have two more, I would say, and I'll just hit on these really quickly. But one is letting perfectionism stop you from just getting out there. And I say that because I am a recovering perfectionist, and I see that so often. And so don't wait for perfect. I always say done beats perfect. So that is another huge mistake that I see. People will hold them back. They'll try to wait for to have the perfect offer, the perfect product before they start selling. Listen, feedback from customers is one of the best things you can get to continue to refine your product offering. The second thing is the lack of follow-up, because so often, I saw a stat not too long ago that 90% of people will send one email or, one pitch or one, sales email, and then they'll never follow up again. And so you can set yourself apart in the top 10% just by following up, whether it's, a high ticket client or what have you. And so I think, along with that, whether it's following up or just being consistent in your sales efforts, matters so much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think, the follow-up, it's such a good point, because Usually you're not, because you think, well, they'll get back to me. You might have left something at the bottom of the email that says, do you have any questions? Or, and expecting them to take that next step. And this is a conversation I've had so many times with clients, because I totally agree. And I used to make that mistake too, of not following up. And I'm like, you're helping them out by sending a follow-up email. And especially if the first one has been quite long and it's included, a recap of maybe what you spoke about on the phone, or it's got all the information. There's a lot to process and digest in there. And so usually my follow-up is really short. It's like, hey, just checking in with you. Do you have a question or a concern that I can help you out with? And often that is all that's needed, is just, I'm asking, do you have a question? Like, you don't need to do anything more, it's literally, I'm here to answer your question. And so often they come back and go, yeah, actually, I do have a question. And it's just opening that door to say, I know that we had that whole discussion. I don't know why people don't just ask the question, but it's so curious, right? Like, how often that simple, hey, do you have a question that I can help you with?
Opening the door. Yeah.
It opens the door to that question. And sometimes they're waiting for that invite. So like you said, it's so simple. And I don't know why we don't do it. It's almost like you feel like you're annoying them or badgering them. Whereas maybe now you can think, oh, actually, they're just waiting for an invitation to the question that they've got. That's the only reason why they're stalling,
In my candle company, and pitching my products to retailers, I cannot tell you how many retailers I have had when I followed up with them that have actually thanked me for following up. So if that tells you that follow up is actually a service to your clients, to your customers, it's actually just, like you said, a reminder. They so often will go, oh my goodness, thank you so much for following up. I had every intention of placing an order with you and I got sidetracked, and I'm so glad you emailed me.
Yeah.
I would have missed out on $1,000 order,
Yeah.
So,
and they're missing out as well. It's like, don't make them go searching through their inbox, trying to find the email. Like, everybody's busy. There's a million reasons why they may not have replied or may not have had done it at the time, because, you just have to say, well, what do you think could have happened? When they got your email, where might they have been? You're like, oh yeah, they could have been driving in the car. They might have been making dinner. Maybe their kids, suddenly something happened, and, the world shifted into a whole different place. And you're thinking, oh, it's because they didn't like it. It's like, that's probably one of about 100 different reasons why it may have happened.
And when you think of like, oh, I missed out on $1,000 sale because I didn't want to feel pushy, like it sounds so ridiculous. So follow up.
Yeah, exactly. And it is totally different. People are like, oh, I get these follow-ups. People who are following up from a, they've done a cold pitch to you, and then they're like in your inbox going, hey, I haven't heard from you. Hey, that is very different to you following up from a conversation you've already had, someone who's interested, you've sent the details through, totally different type of follow-up. So I just want to put those in completely different boxes. You will not be the same as those people who are pestering you because you haven't replied to their cold pitch. You're actually just, helping them.
I mean, you can still follow up on a cold pitch, but maybe not say, I haven't heard from you. Like, okay, like there's a good way to follow up to a cold pitch. And I even always say, even sending, like, I do not like sending like mass cold pitches, I always teach my wholesale students how to send like a personal, individual email pitch to a retailer, and then how to follow up that feels warm, and not, because we've all gotten those like cold follow-ups. So to your point, like there is a way to follow up that doesn't feel cringy, know?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Oh, I love it. You have shared so many amazing points of value, Andee. This has been such an incredible discussion. I think an important one, because I know how awkward sales used to feel for me, even though I'd kind of, as I said, I'm like, I had a little time of doing sales and realized that I was successful at it, weirdly. But then, many, many years passed and before I was doing it in this business. And it does not feel natural. You've said you had to work at it. You spent a long time training and getting comfortable. And now you have, so much experience to share with people. Do you have, where can people reach out to you? Where can they follow you? How can
Yes.
they connect?
Thanks for asking. So I have a website. It's andeehart.com. My name is spelled a little different. It's ANDEEHART. And you can find me also at that same Andee Hart on Instagram and Facebook. And then I also uh, gave you a link to an amazing tool that I have that are just some tried and true helpful sales tools that I have used in my business, both for service-based business sales tools and product-based sales tools. So whatever you are selling, if you need help, these are just some helpful tools. So you can grab that link in the show notes.
Amazing. What can you give us an example of a kind of tool that they are? Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my favorite tools, some of you guys may have heard of it, that I love to use is a sales tool called ConvertBox. Have you heard of ConvertBox?
I don't think so, but tell us a bit
Yeah.
for those who haven't.
So it is a pop-up tool for different websites. You can use it on Shopify. You can use it on your website, but it's a plugin. And what is really cool about this is that you can target your audience for them to see specific offers that you have based on your different segmentations. So maybe they've already bought a course from you. You don't want to target them with that course again. You want to target them with a complementary product. And so you can actually target them with, an embed in your Shopify site or in your website or wherever, or a pop-up, or even a bar at the top. So there's lots of different things. But then what is also cool is, you can create tripwires with that as well. So it's all based on audience segmentation. And so that kind of goes back to knowing your audience and, not selling them something they've already bought, but making it valuable for them. So that's one of the tools that I have in there that I love.
Oh, I love it. That's so cool. And so you could, because I think also it's like about that relevance, and it sounds so clever that they already know what that customer's bought. So you'd be able to suggest a product that you think would be the next step or complementary, like an obvious next step for that person to buy a related product. Obviously, if you have product-based purchases, or if it's like this course, well, if you've got that one, then the next one would be whatever it is.
And no matter what you're selling, like I said, products or services, it doesn't matter. I really use it in my service-based business. And so it's just a really cool tool, and it's a lifetime fee. It's not a subscription product, which I love.
So good. Yeah. I am all about the lifetime.
Me too.
Try to get as many of those as possible.
Amen.
Oh, love it. So great. So you put together a list of your favorite ones, and you can download that from Andee's website. I've got the link in the show notes. Amazing. Thank you, Andee, because, that's just one I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. So I'm sure there's going to be some other gold in there, some really cool tools that can help it, just sort of, I guess it takes what you have already and makes it easier for someone to buy from you. You kind of like, hey, here's this thing. They don't have to find it in your website some other way. You're kind of enabling it to be presented to them up front, which is absolutely going to help convert. Yeah.
Makes doing business easy with you, for sure.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Andee. And I've got her links in the show notes. So if you want to reach out on the social media and follow Andee, please do so. And Andee, we haven't even mentioned your podcast. Do you have a podcast? Have you loved listening to her?
It's She Sells Differently, because as I have mentioned throughout the episode, I love teaching how to sell differently than what culture often tells us we should look like when we sell. And so yes, She Sells Differently. You can listen on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, love it. So that will be linked up as well. So if you've loved listening to Andee, then hop along and check out some of her episodes on her podcast. Make sure you subscribe. And thank you so much, Andee, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jessica.
Are you struggling to find quality clients these days? Well, in this world of instant gratification and abundance of AI-produced content, it may be feeling harder than ever to attract the sort of clients who really value your expertise, are ready to show up, ready to commit and invest in getting the results that they actually want. But it's not just about guessing, and it's not about just creating more content hoping that something sticks. There is some specific things that you can do and need to have in your business in order to attract those sort of clients. And I'm sharing them with you in my training, my free training called The Magnetic Formula. So go and grab yourself a seat for this free class and let me show you what are these 5 key things you need to have in your business so that you end up with a stream of committed, high quality clients who are ready to invest, who help you have a very thriving, flourishing business that earns you over 6 figures a year, and you do it all in very easy part-time hours. Head over to jessicaosborne.com/TMF or drop below into the show notes, click on the link and grab yourself a seat for this free training while it still exists. I'll see you then.